Hello, this is Robin, and I'm going to do a little screencast on my lesson plan project. First of all, I started with a lesson plan that I really enjoy related to geography in Africa, and I'll show you a little bit about it. I'm going to go ahead and cover the content standards and some of the ISTE standards, NETSI standards for students. But basically, I wanted my students to be able to explain the impact of location, climate, and physical characteristics on population distribution in Africa. And basically, the essential question that I ask for my students to learn is where do people live in Africa, and why do they live where they do? Based on the climate, physical characteristics, of Africa itself and the different areas of Africa. So as far as the content standards, that was my content standard that I was looking for in this particular assignment. And as far as the NETSI standards, creativity and innovation, I felt were really important. They're going to demonstrate some creative thinking, construct knowledge, and develop some products, some end products using technology, as well as communication and collaboration. They're using digital media to communicate and work collaboratively with each other in this project. So basically, let's see. I'll go ahead and start with how I started the lesson plan. And what I did first was present the lesson plan using Nearpod, the Nearpod app. And we had come up with, actually one of my teammates, social studies team, PLC teammates, had developed a really nice lesson on Nearpod that she had used in her classroom and shared it with the rest of our group. And I decided to use it with my small resource class because I felt like this was something that they could handle. We had the iPad cart, and I would have the technology available for them. So I checked out the iPad cart, brought them in. Each student had their own tablet, which was very nice for this particular group because a lot of time, many of them don't have access to technology. They don't have the cell phones that some of the other students have. They don't have access to internet either, some of them. So we all had an iPad. It turned out it was also a day that I was observed, which I was not expecting. So it was kind of a surprise, but it ended up being a nice lesson to teach while being observed, because then I had actually my mentor for this particular program was in the observation, as well as an administrator, and it was nice to be able to show them some of the apps that we've learned about. Anyway, so I went over the objectives, and that's mainly the goal of the lesson. And I want to talk about the 3 tools really quickly that I used. Nearpod is a great tool. It was a guided lesson that basically it was something that I controlled through my iPad, but then the students can respond as we go along to different questions. They have the opportunity even to draw pictures on Nearpod, and I'm going to show you real quickly this presentation so you can kind of see what it looks like. Alright, so we're looking at it right now, and here is the Nearpod presentation, and we started with North Africa, and basically as I'm clicking through the screens, the students are seeing this also on their screen, and then it gives me a chance to ask questions as we go along, get a lot of formative assessment, find out what they're learning, what do they know, predictions that they might make, what kinds of lifestyles, for example, do the people of the Sahara live? Why would they live in this manner? Some critical thinking questions and open-ended questions. At one point during the presentation, they even have the opportunity to draw a river delta, which they really enjoyed that piece as well. So that's part of the creativity part. The other two major apps that I used for this project were a postcard maker app, and also let's see, in the postcard maker app I used because I gave my students a choice of an end product for this assignment. I wanted them to be able to either create a postcard or create a flyer. So they had a choice of using the Postcard Maker app, and I will show you in my lesson plan also. Let's see if I can find it in my lesson plan here. Okay, so they have a choice of either a postcard using the Apple app Postcard Plus app or a flyer using Poster Maker. I'm then going to assess the student learning using Kahoot. And if you're not familiar with Kahoot, that's a great online app where the students have the option of responding. You can ask questions. You get immediate feedback on how they're doing, what they've learned, if they've learned the lesson. It's a really nice program to use. So basically, those are the programs that I used for this particular project. Let's see. Let me see if I can pull up very quickly. I'm going to show you what Kahoot looks like as well. So basically, you register Kahoot, you come up with a game pin, enter, you have a little ID, a login ID, and then I can basically ask the questions and the students respond. So it's a student response system for immediate assessment. So I use those also. Let's see. Differentiating for my students was basically the fact that I gave them, first of all, a choice of their performance assessments. They had a choice of creating a postcard of the geography of Africa, or they could create a flyer describing the geography of Africa. So I wanted them to have some choices in that. Let's see. All my students were given equitable access to technology. I ensured this by making sure that they each had their own tablet, and I even had one of the tablets locked up in the middle of the lesson, and I was able to get one of my coworkers to help unlock it while I was able to continue, and that student was able to look on to another one. Basically, I assess my students using rubrics. I mean, I had a lot of formative assessment, obviously, with this lesson, but I also had a rubric that I used, and the assignments, the graded assignments, would be the flyers or the postcard as well. Those were also used to assess my students. I think probably as I reflect on my lesson and the preparation and the internet tools, although I'm halfway through this program, I still feel like there are times where I'm not as familiar with the programs as I'm trying to use them in my classroom. And I feel like that's one of the areas that I need to work on more, is to have the opportunity to spend more time in these particular apps and programs, so that I feel like I can troubleshoot when I run into a problem, or I'm able to answer questions about them. And I think that's the hardest part for me right now in using a lot of different apps in my lessons. So as far as troubleshooting before the implementation, I didn't seem to have many problems with that, but I did, as I said, I had some troubleshooting during the lesson and was able to rely on a coworker actually to help me work on the iPad so that I could continue with my students, and that particular student could look on with others until we were able to get it fixed. Overall, this was a great lesson. My students were very engaged. They loved using the iPads. It made them really feel like they were really made them feel like they were participating in something that, in a small group setting, that a lot of times they don't have access to because they're not in a large gen ed classroom. So basically, that is my lesson. I think they found it very meaningful, and it turned out to be a great lesson for my students.